The galaxy had long believed humanity was a quiet, primitive species. A backwater world, tucked on the spiral edge of an unremarkable arm, barely scraping the stars. At least, that was the story the Council told itself. But on the day Earth's fleet arrived, the illusion shattered. They weren't supposed to have warships. They weren't supposed to have engines that bent gravity like cloth, or cannons that whispered death across light minutes. They weren't supposed to bring silence to the war-torn void, silence born of fear. Because one fleet, just one, was enough to make the most ruthless empire in the galaxy tremble. The arrival. The war room of the Valoran Council chamber was built from black stone mined in the heart of collapsed stars. Its vaulted ceiling shimmered with holographic projections of battles raging across 1,000 sectors. For centuries, the Valoran Dominion had been the undisputed terror of known space, conquering, consuming, and enslaving entire species with cold precision. And yet, for the first time in memory, silence fell across the chamber. Not because of a defeat. Not because of rebellion. But because of a name. Humans, whispered Chancellor Velker, his 4 eyes narrowing as the word tasted sour on his tongue. Reports streamed across the holoscreens. Valoran fleet annihilated in Epsilon Draconis sector. Admiral Zurak's armada of 90 warships, gone. Destroyed by 1. The councillors muttered in disbelief. It was impossible. The Valorans had crushed the Yulan resistance with 200 ships, extinguished the XHYN in a single strike, enslaved half a galaxy. And yet one Terran fleet had reduced their might to ashes. They're not supposed to be this advanced, hissed Minister Caliph, his spindly claws flexing against the stone table. Their world was catalogued as Tier 3 primitive barely a century ago. Their colonies, limited. Their weapons, outdated. How could they possibly? The holoscreen shifted. Footage from a doomed Valoran battleship flickered, captured moments before destruction. A single Terran warship filled the display. Sleek, obsidian hull, no banners, no emblems. Just a predator carved into metal. Its cannons ignited with eerie, sunbright flares. Then came the sound. A shockwave, not of plasma or fire, but of resonance, vibrating like a primal growl through the void. Every Valoran in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. Instincts honed over millennia recognized it for what it was, the sound of an apex predator. The ship had cut through 90 warships as if they were paper. 90. And that was just one ship, part of one fleet. Earth's Vanguard. On the far side of the war, deep within the Terran Vanguard flagship USS Resolute, Captain Marcus Hale stood in silence before the viewing deck. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that carried the weight of old wars. America had raised him, Earth had armed him, the galaxy had forced him to become something more. Beside him, Commander Elena Brooks folded her arms, her voice low. "They'll come harder next time." "They always do," Hale replied. His voice was calm, almost unnervingly so. "The difference is, we're ready." He glanced at the fleet spread across the darkness outside the viewport. Dozens of Terran warships moved in formation, their silhouettes gleaming like black knives against the stars. The Vanguard fleet was Earth's first true answer to galactic tyranny, a fleet that should not exist by all laws of probability. But humanity had always been the impossible species. From fire to flight, from stone to stars, they had defied every limit placed before them. And now, as the galaxy's predators bared their fangs, humanity bared its own. "Message from Earth Command," Brooks reported, eyes scanning the console. "They've intercepted transmissions. The Valorans are rattled. They're calling us demons." Hale gave the faintest smile. "Good. Fear makes them sloppy. The galaxy reacts." In the distant halls of the Orion Trade Confederacy, merchants who had profited from Valoran dominance gathered in panic. Their wealth meant nothing if humanity's rise shattered the balance of power. On the desert world of Zorprime, refugees whispered prayers at the sight of Terran ships passing overhead, believing angels had come and steal. And in the shadows of broken empires, enslaved species who had forgotten hope felt their hearts stir again. Because if one Terran fleet could tear through the galaxy's tyrants, what would happen if there were more? The ambush. The Valorans did not wait to find out. On the edge of the Altaris Rift, the Terran vanguard was ambushed. Hundreds of Valoran ships, battleships, dreadnoughts, carriers slid from the darkness like wolves circling prey. Alarms blared aboard the USS Resolute. "Enemy signatures, 300 and rising," shouted Ensign Patel. Brooks leaned forward, tension sharp in her voice. "They're trying to overwhelm us." Marcus Hale's jaw tightened. His gaze remained fixed on the stars. "They think numbers will save them." The Valoran commander's voice snarled across open channels, guttural and dripping venom. "Terrans, your insolence ends today. We are the Dominion. You are insects who dared sting the lion." Hale answered with chilling calm. "No, Commander. We're the storm you never saw coming." The first salvo hit an avalanche of plasma fire crashing against Terran shields. The fleet shook, light blazing across the void. And then the Terrans answered. The Resolute's main cannon roared, spearing through 3 Valoran dreadnoughts in a single burst. Terran fighters streaked into the fray, weaving between enemy formations with lethal precision. One by one, Valoran warships died screaming in flame. The void became fire. The revelation. But as brutal as the battle was, it wasn't the true terror. Because, as Valoran sensors screamed warnings, as their fleets broke and scattered, something new appeared on their scans. Not one fleet. Not 2. 10. 10 Terran fleets emerging from hyperspace across the galaxy, each one as deadly as the first. Coordinated. Unstoppable. In the council chamber, silence once again strangled the air as the reports arrived. "One fleet was enough to cripple us," whispered Minister Caliph, his voice shaking. "And now they've brought out 10 others." The Dominion had ruled with fire for 1,000 years. But in that moment, every Valoran understood the truth. The age of their empire was ending. And the age of mankind had begun. The storm breaks. The Valoran Dominion had never known fear. Conquest, yes. Resistance, sometimes. But fear? No. Until now. The arrival of not 1 but 10 Terran fleets shattered the balance of the galaxy. Entire empires, once docile under Valoran shadow, now stirred. Council halls erupted with arguments, colonies prepared for rebellion, and whispers of Terrans spread like wildfire. 1 fleet had been enough to terrify them. 10 was enough to make the impossible inevitable. The Council fractures. In the obsidian chamber of the Valoran High Council, Chancellor Velker slammed his clawed fist against the war table. "This cannot stand. We will not be undone by primitives." But the cracks were already forming. Councillor Jorix, commander of the Dominion's eastern sectors, lowered his voice. "Primitives do not annihilate 90 of our warships with 1 fleet, Chancellor. Primitives do not conjure 10 more fleets out of nowhere. We are facing something else." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Ministers exchanged nervous glances. The Dominion had ruled through strength for centuries, but strength only commanded loyalty when it was unquestionable. Now, doubt poisoned the air. "Then we burn them," Velker spat. "Every colony. Every outpost. Let humanity learn that for every fleet they build, we will reduce 10 worlds to ash." Silence followed. Even among the Valorans, there were lines that smelled too much like desperation. And desperation was dangerous. Earth's hand revealed. On the bridge of the USS Resolute, Captain Marcus Hale received the secure transmission. Earth Command's insignia shimmered against the dark. General Nathaniel Carter appeared, his grizzled face etched with battle scars. "Hale," Carter began, his voice gravel and steel, "the galaxy's watching us now. Fear is on our side, but it'll only carry us so far. The Dominion won't stop. They'll scorch planets before they admit weakness. We can't just fight them fleet to fleet, we need to break them. Completely." Hale's eyes narrowed. "You're ordering a decapitation strike." Carter nodded once. "Their central command. Velker himself. We cut off the head, the body collapses. Each fleet will move to liberate the sectors under its watch, but you, his gaze hardened. You'll lead the strike. Commander Elena Brooks stepped closer, her jaw tightening. That means war on their core worlds. Their defenses will be insane. Carter's voice did not waver. War is already here. It's time we end it on our terms. The transmission ended, leaving only silence and the steady hum of the Resolute's engines. Hale exhaled slowly, then turned to his crew. You heard him. We don't just fight battles. We end wars. The weight of war. Hours later, in the dim light of the officers' quarters, Hale found himself staring at a small photograph, creases worn from years, in his pocket. A woman, smiling in the sunlight. His late wife, Anna. Brooks found him there, leaning against the bulkhead. Her voice softened. You still carry it. Hale didn't look up. She believed in what humanity could be. Not what we were. Not what we had to become. But what we might become. And what's that? Brooks asked. He finally looked at her, eyes steady, voice like iron. The ones who end the monsters. The clash at Vega Prime. The Dominion struck first. Valoran fleets surged into the Vega Prime system, determined to retake what humanity had seized. 200 warships burned into orbit, their cannons thundering. Civilian colonies screamed for aid as plasma storms scoured the skies. But the Terran fleets were waiting. From hyperspace, they emerged, sleek, black, and silent. 10 fleets, each commanded by captains forged in Earth's crucible of wars long forgotten by the galaxy. Contact in 3, 2, 1. The void erupted. Terran rail cannons tore through Valoran cruisers, carving molten scars into their hulls. Carrier wings of Terran interceptors swarmed like angry hornets, weaving between enemy fire with unnatural precision. Valoran dreadnoughts unleashed superheated plasma, only to watch in horror as Terran shields bent and held. And through it all, the Resolute cut a path like a spear, Hale's voice echoing across the comms. Hold the line. Every colony we save today is another that will stand tomorrow. Do not break. The battle raged for hours. Vega Prime's skies lit like a second sun, explosions cascading against the dark. For every Terran ship that fell, 5 Valorans followed it into the abyss. By the end, silence returned. The Dominion fleet, what remained of it, limped into retreat, broken and scattered. And Vega Prime lived. The crumbling throne. Back in the Valoran capital of Dravkul, Chancellor Valker's fury reached a breaking point. They defy us at Vega Prime, at Altaris, at Draconis. Every fleet I send, they annihilate. Every plan I weave, they cut apart. These humans are not warriors, they are extinction made flesh. Counselor Jorix, trembling but bold, whispered the truth others feared to voice. Perhaps extinction is what we deserve. Gasps hissed across the chamber. But no one silenced him. Not this time. For the first time in millennia, the Valoran throne shook. The whisper of hope. News of Vega Prime spread faster than light. Across conquered worlds, slaves lifted their heads. Chains felt weaker. Resistance cells once crushed in shadows rose again, whispering a single word with reverence. Humans. They weren't gods. They weren't saviors. They were something different, something dangerous enough to make tyrants bleed. And sometimes, that was all hope needed. The path forward. On the bridge of the Resolute, the fleet gathered in silence. Hull scarred, shields drained, but still standing. Always standing. Commander Brooks looked to Hale. They'll throw everything at us now. We're forcing their hand. Hale's gaze remained locked on the stars ahead. Good. That means they're desperate. And desperation leads to mistakes. He turned, his voice carrying through the comms, reaching every captain, every soldier, every crew member in the Terran Armada. The Dominion thinks fear will break us. They don't understand, we've lived with fear since the first humans lit fire in the dark. Fear forged us. Fear made us stronger. And now, we'll show them what comes after fear. The fleet rumbled, engines igniting, weapons primed. 10 fleets, bound by purpose, driving toward the heart of tyranny. For the Valoran Dominion, the storm was no longer coming. The storm had arrived. The end of tyranny. The Valoran Dominion had ruled for millennia. They had burned civilizations to ash, enslaved billions, and carved their throne from the bones of worlds. They believed themselves eternal. But eternity was crumbling. Across the galaxy, Terran fleets pushed deeper, liberating system after system. For every Valoran victory, 3 defeats followed. For every Terran ship lost, 10 more took its place. And at the center of it all stood one man, aboard one ship. Captain Marcus Hale. The spear aimed at the Valoran heart. The infiltration. The plan was audacious, reckless, human. The USS Resolute would spearhead an assault into Dravkal, the Valoran capital system. The Dominion's throne world was shielded by colossal defense grids, dreadnought rings, and fleets numbering in the thousands. No sane commander would attack it directly. But humanity had never been accused of sanity. From the bridge, Commander Elena Brooks studied the tactical display. Her voice was taut. "Marcus, this is madness. Even with 10 fleets, they outnumber us 5-1. Hale's gaze didn't waver. Numbers don't win wars. Will does. The Terran Armada roared from hyperspace. Thousands of Valoran warships responded instantly, filling the void with fire. The stars themselves seemed to scream. The battle for Dravkal had begun. The storm of steel. The void was chaos. Valoran dreadnoughts unleashed storms of plasma that shattered planets into molten shards. Terran rail cannons punched through enemy lines with brutal precision. Fighter wings clashed in swarms, streaking trails of fire across the dark. The Resolute surged forward, carving a path through the inferno. Each blast rocked the hull, each maneuver a dance on the edge of death. Shields at 30%. Patel cried out. "Keep them steady," Hale answered. His voice was calm, a rock in the storm. Brooks leaned close, eyes sharp. "We can't hold this forever. We need a breach point." Hale's lips pressed thin. Then he saw it, a flaw in the Valoran formation, a gap born of desperation. "There," he said. "Punch through. Straight to their command bastion." The Resolute dove, weaving through enemy fire, unleashing hell as it cut the path. Other Terran ships followed, forming a spearhead. Together, they drove toward the black fortress orbiting Dravkal, the beating heart of Valoran rule. The last stand of Vaelker. Inside the fortress, Chancellor Vaelker watched the battle unfold from his throne of obsidian and steel. His 4 eyes burned with fury. "Bring everything to bear," he roared. "If we fall, we burn with them." But even as he spoke, his generals hesitated. Fear had taken root. Doubt spread like infection. Some whispered escape, others betrayal. The Dominion was fracturing from within, even as the Terran fleets closed in. For the first time in his long reign, Vaelker felt something alien to his kind. Helplessness. Into the fire. The Resolute broke through the fortress defenses, slamming into docking clamps with a thunderous crash. Hale led the boarding strike himself, boots thudding against alien steel as his squad advanced. Rail rifles spat fire, cutting down Valoran defenders in vicious bursts. Smoke and blood filled the halls. The air was thick with the metallic tang of war. Brooks fought at Hale's side, her blade cutting through a Valoran officer who lunged with a plasma pike. She spat, catching her breath. "You ever think we weren't meant for this?" Hale drove his rifle butt into an enemy's skull, voice steady. "Every war humanity's fought, they said we weren't meant for it. And every time, we survived." They pressed forward, step by brutal step, until the throne chamber doors loomed. Massive, obsidian, unbroken for centuries. "Blow it," Hale ordered. Charges ignited. The doors shattered. And there, upon his throne of fire and shadow, sat Chancellor Vaelker. His claws flexed, his fangs bared. He rose to his full towering height, his voice echoing with venom. "Humans! You are parasites, gnawing at the flesh of the galaxy. You think your moment means you are eternal? You are dust. I am dominion. I am. Hail shot him. A single rail round tore through the Chancellor's chest, slamming him back into his throne. The chamber shook with the echo. No, Hale said coldly, lowering his rifle. You were dominion. Now you're history. The fall. The death of Chancellor Vailker shattered the dominion like glass. Across the galaxy, Valoran fleets broke ranks, retreating or surrendering. Worlds rose in rebellion, throwing chains aside as the Empire collapsed in days what had taken millennia to build. And in every corner of space, one truth echoed louder than any cannon. Humanity had arrived. The aftermath. Weeks later, the Terran fleets gathered above Earth. The skies above the blue planet filled with steel and light, 10 fleets strong, scarred, bloodied, but victorious. On the Resolute's bridge, Brooks watched the display in silence. For the first time in months, the hum of battle was gone. It's over, she whispered. Hale stood beside her, gaze fixed on Earth's surface far below. Cities glimmered, oceans stretched vast and untamed. Home. No, he said softly. It's just beginning. Brooks turned, brow furrowed. Beginning? He nodded. We've shown the galaxy what humanity can do when threatened. Now we show them what we can do when building. Fear brought them to their knees. Hope will bring them to our side. Brooks smiled faintly. From conquerors to builders. Hale's eyes lingered on the stars. That's what Anna would have wanted. The silence stretched, filled only by the steady hum of engines, the heartbeat of a people no longer confined to one world. Epilogue: A New Dawn. In the ruins of the Valoran capital, banners of 100 freed species flew. Slaves walked free, chains shattered, their voices raised not in fear but in song. And through every corridor of the galaxy, a single phrase was whispered with awe, with fear, with reverence. One fleet was enough to terrify them. Then Earth brought out 10 others. And nothing would ever be the same again.